Okay. Millionaire real estate agent. Make sure your playbook is handy because we are all on a path to earn $1 million as a real estate agent. First to gross $1 million, then to net $1 million, then to receive $1 million, and finally to give away $1 million a year because I walk like, talk like, look like, and have the checkbook of a millionaire real estate agent. Affirmation, write it down. Now, amen is right. Now we're moving to a new chapter and shift. I'm on tactic number 7, price ahead of the market, seller pricing strategies, page number 135. Now, for all of you out there, for all my Zoomers, this is all I have. Just one page with some notes, which means I need your participation. This is going to be an interactive call. I want to get you involved in the conversation. So let's start with the quote at the top of the page. The ability to learn faster than your competitors. Well, first of all, let me let you in on a little secret. Most of your competitors aren't even attempting to learn. Learning is not even on their radar. So learning faster to them should not be a major challenge because they quit learning when they got out of high school in the 12th grade. Oh, that wasn't good. Now, I am an education junkie. And I can honestly say in 6 years of being a team leader with Keller Williams Realty, because of the training this company offers, I have received an MBA in business, 100%. Write it down. It's a fact. I'm on page 135. So learning is a big part of what we do. Now, back to the top of the page. The ability to learn faster than your competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. Gary Keller shared when he started his masterminds many years ago is our job as leadership is to help our people think differently, and that will become their number one competitive advantage. How you think matters. Now, anybody can take an order. Anybody can show up at somebody's house on a listing appointment and talk to the homeowner about the reasons they're selling their home. Where are you moving to when your home sells? Anybody can talk about market value. The homeowner doesn't need you to determine the market value of their home. They can get that information themselves. Just click any site on the internet and there it is. However, when you focus on becoming the local economist of choice and becoming a market expert, an expert on pricing strategies, that becomes your competitive advantage. You start to have different conversations at the kitchen table than your competitors are. Now, top of the page, Gary says, the moment the media declares a real estate shift, it's as if the market just got doused in a cold shower. The result is fearful buyers, pickier buyers, and eventually fewer buyers. All right, first opportunity for you to participate. Are we in a shift? Now, remember, there's many different ways that the market can shift before you answer this question. Now, somebody tell me why. Put your hand up if you're on Zoom, because I've got 15 of you, and I'll call on you if you hit that little digital hand. And of course, if you're in the room, Diane.
Well, what I noticed is that the homes are on the market a little longer. That's the first sign.
Okay. The homes are sitting on the market for a little bit longer.
Not much, but a little longer.
True.
Yes.
True. Carolyn, and then Brian.
Not only are they sitting on there longer, now people are willing to negotiate their prices down, because before, it's a hot market, and you can get anything for nothing to offer. So
there you go. Absolutely. Gary tells an interesting story. Keep your hand up because I'm coming back to you. Gary tells an interesting story that is a great example of how supply and demand affects the real estate market. It's on page 136. At the bar exam, 3 different would-be attorneys forget their pens. One asks a test proctor if he has an extra pen. He does, but only one. The first attorney says, I'll give you $1 for the pen. The second attorney chimes in, I'll give you $2. Then the third says, hey, I'll give you $3. By the next time the bar exam is given, all the attorneys know not to forget a pen, and all the test proctors have heard that they should bring extras. This time, only one attorney forgets, and when he asks a proctor for a pen, the proctor answers, sure, I'll sell it to you for $3. Then another proctor jumps in and says, I'll sell you one for $2. But before the attorney can pull out his billfold, a third proctor offers, I'll sell you mine for just $1. Caroline, that's exactly what you just said. And you're starting to see that. Brian and then Rashad.
Yeah, so from Richard Bass' class, I believe it was, or market stats, they pointed out the level of confidence that buyers are having are basically very low. And basically what that means to me is that buyers understand that the prices are high and that they are afraid to buy.
There you go. Absolutely. They take their foot off the gas a little bit and put their foot on that brake and say, wait a minute, I'm going to slow down just a little bit. And now when listings were getting 20 offers, they're getting 10, and real estate agents are still celebrating that, but they're not recognizing the fact that fewer offers means there's a shift in the market. It used to be, we were seeing pictures all over social media that when somebody had an open house, there were 20, 30 people lined up outside for the open house. Has anybody done an open house lately? Are there 20 or 30 people lined up outside for your open house? Diane is shaking her head. So the answer is no. These are all indicators that you're starting to see a shift. Rashad.
So to even add on to what Brian was saying about the Richard Bass class, market statistics, we also learned that the interest rates are projected to go up. And that means that, you know, the $500,000 buyer isn't $500,000 no more.
That is a really good point. Very good point. How much does an increase in interest rates of 1% affect affordability for a buyer who's looking at a $500,000 home? And 10%. Thank you, Brian. And if there were 3 buyers that were that were ready, willing, and able to buy your $500,000 home, and interest rates went up by 1%, are there still 3 buyers? Maybe, and maybe not. Maybe now there's only 1. Now there's 10 for sale. And those 10 homeowners are competing for that 1 buyer. That's a shift.
Question.
Yes,
Is it an indication that the market's gonna drop?
Debbie, right? No?
No, that's something.
Wendy.
Yes,
Wendy. Boy, you guys look almost alike. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And she was in the front.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, Wendy. Sorry. Yes, Wendy. It's possible. It's not necessary. Now, you can have a market shift and the prices not go down. And there could be a market shift for real estate agents where buyers and sellers would tell you there's no shift. And what all that means is there's fewer people listing their homes, and there's still 30,000 real estate agents who are chasing those listings. That's a shift. You're not going to actually start to see prices come down until supply and demand gets to the point where sellers are dropping their price in order to attract fewer buyers. And then you'll see prices come down. But you'll see a shift in the market before you see a shift in prices. Okay. All right, let me go back to page 135. Middle of the page. Sellers who are slow to recognize this shift will quickly become overpriced and consequently overlooked. Now, Wendy, that's what you were just talking about. So if I list my property at, so I'm gonna go to the flip chart. Let's see if I can fix this so people in Zoom can see this. Okay, cool. When you've got less than 90 days of inventory, prices are going up, right? When you have less than 30 days of inventory, prices are going up at even a faster rate because buyers are willing to pay above market value in order to purchase a home. And if I pay 10% above market value on a $500,000 market value home, I just paid $550,000 for that property. That creates a new floor, meaning the next home that's going to sell will sell for more than that. Now, if you're in a market where inventory is less than 30 days, prices could be going up by as much as 10%, maybe even higher. Now, if you're sitting down with a homeowner and you price that property at $550,000 when the market value is $500,000, if you're less than 30 days of inventory, you might be okay. Because the market's moving up, it'll eventually move up to that price, or a buyer is willing to pay more than it's worth. But here's the challenge, guys. Nobody knows when the market is going to do this, when the market is going to even out. And if I list my home today, right as that market is evening out, and I list my home at $550,000, when the market says it's worth $500,000, the market is no longer moving to that $550,000 price. And even though there's still less, even though we're still in a seller's market, there's going to be fewer buyers who are willing to pay my price. And because there might not even be any buyers who are willing to pay my price. And because there's fewer buyers, sellers who are slow to recognize this shift will quickly become overpriced and consequently be overlooked. And that's exactly what I just drew on the flip chart here. Slow to recognize, quickly overpriced, and overlooked. Now, in that example, this particular seller is going to end up dropping their price. They're going to end up dropping their price to where they should have had it to begin with. But the problem with that (0 days, 30 days. You guys on Zoom be able to see this? Yes, good. 30 days, 60 days, 120, and 180 days. If the market value is $500,000, but we're not paying attention and we price that property, I'll use a lower number that's a little bit more possible. We price it at $525 because we're not paying attention. We're not paying attention that homes are sitting on the market just a little bit longer, and there's fewer buyers who are willing to pay that inflated price. Here's a question that I would ask everybody. Do we have an unlimited supply of buyers who are willing to pay above market value, or will that well eventually run dry? It's running dry now, 100%. Now, Wendy, here's what happens. This seller, after about 30 days on the market with no offers, and we get to 60 days, and this indicates the number of people who are looking at the home. From 0 days to 30 days, it's going to peak, and then it's going to start to fall. And about 180 days out, the next door neighbor doesn't even recognize the home is for sale any longer. And typically what happens is somewhere around 90 days, the seller is going to say, you know what? My home has not sold. Go ahead and lower the price to 500. The problem with that is we missed the best time to sell the home. This is where all the people are. And you want to look at it like we're fishing. This is where the fish are. In the first 30 days, if we're at 500,000, our bait is in the water. If we lower the price to 500 at day 90, we're still fishing with our bait out of the water because the water level dropped. And now the fish are down here. And what typically happens in this type of market is a buyer comes in around 120 days on the market and they love the home. And the first question they ask is, how long has it been on the market? And the real estate agent says 120 days. The next question they ask is, what's wrong with the house? And the real estate agent says, there's nothing wrong with the house. It's a great house. Now, if you're looking at a home, Alan, that's 120 days on the market and you love the house, you want to make an offer, are you offering full price?
No.
Opportunity. I can get a deal. So then that buyer comes in with an offer of 470,000 or lower. Now, is your negotiating position stronger 30 days on the market or 120 days on the market? 30 days on the market. And see what happens, Wendy, and most times this seller will end up selling their home for $470,000 because now they're more motivated. They're not happy. They're probably angry. And they sold their home. They lost $30,000 trying to make an extra 25.
Yeah.
Now we still have an additional 90 days on the market. Yes or yes? And the holding cost is mortgage, taxes, insurance, and taxes, HOA fees. Let's say the holding cost is $3,000 a month, at least.
Yeah.
That's an additional $9,000 that they paid not to sell their home. Script, write it down. So they lost $39,000 trying to make an extra 25. Now I'm going to go back and read what Gary said to you, because this is exactly what I just demonstrated, and it's what Gary says at the bottom of the page. Sellers who are slow to recognize this shift will quickly become overpriced and consequently be overlooked. When the market shifts, first buyers and then sellers become overly guarded and set in motion another intriguing game of the price is right. What is the right price? Who wants to answer that? Clarissa.
The value of the home.
Okay. The value of the home. True, and maybe not.
Market price.
Oh, I know.
A little bit under market value. Okay, again, true and maybe not. Brian has his hand up. Clarissa, I see you. I'm coming back to you. Brian, go. Then Clarissa. Then Carolyn.
What a buyer is willing to pay.
What a buyer is willing to pay. What a buyer is willing to pay.
John.
Write it down, write it down, write it down. Now, who determines that? It's A, the buyer, B, the seller, C, the appraiser, D, the listing agent, E, the buyer's agent. Who determines what a buyer is willing to pay?
The buyer.
The buyer. That's it. Now, who is attached to the deal? The buyer is, the seller is, the buyer's agent is, the listing agent is. Better question would be, who's not attached? The appraiser. The appraiser could care less. In order to sell your home, here's another script. In order to sell your home once, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we have to sell it 3 times. We have to sell it to the buyer. We have to sell it to the buyer's agent who's going to show it. And we have to sell it to the appraiser. And the buyer is emotionally attached. They want to buy your home. The buyer's agent is emotionally attached. They want to get paid. The appraiser doesn't care. Now there's this valuation formula that appraisers use when they start to see a change in the market. It's right on the form, and it's asking them, what is the market doing? And they either have to price it at market value, or they have to make an adjustment for potential drops in the market. So an appraiser is going to drop the appraised value of the property even before the market shifts. Think about these big banks. Are they excited about getting home loans? Say no, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not. They're not, because they remember what happened in 2007 and 2008, and they had inventory of hundreds of properties that they took back in foreclosure. They're scared of that happening again. They don't want it to happen again. They're going to tell the appraisers to be super careful in valuing that property because they don't want bad loans. All right, talk to me.
John,
Yeah.
so on a macro zooming out level, based on what we saw happen over the past year and a half, which was driven by so much, mainly COVID, would you say, because COVID created this almost crazy market for all over the country, right? Like when you're on the James Shaw, you're hearing the same thing from everybody in almost every state. Okay, that's almost every state. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yep.
Now, would you say, based on your experience, that now, as we see a potential shift in the market, it's going back to the general thinking that people are moving? Like, in other words, not every state is going to see, some states, the values are going to go down because people are just, okay, we're done, you know. And yet a state like Florida, people are still flocking here because of weather, because, you know, now we have this Delta thing. So people are like, oh, this is affecting my kids. I'm done. I want more green space. Obviously weather. Is that, you know, Florida's always been that kind of state. I don't know if I'm even saying this right or articulating it right, but because we've just seen an entire country experience the same thing, yet I don't think is that true always, or is it get down to state by state?
Well,
And I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm confusing you or you didn't understand, but maybe you did, I don't know.
I think I understood. I'm going to answer your question maybe in a different way than you asked it. So what typically happens is when you have markets that are moving up at a slower pace, let's say, just to pick some numbers, so we have a baseline to look at, they're moving up at 6 to 7%. The baseline over time, anybody know what that is? If you go back to 1980s when we first started tracking this?
3%.
Yeah, I think 3%, Brian, I think you might be right. And the number I had in mind was 4%. So 4%, close enough. Now, let's say market values are moving up at 6 to 7%. And then we have another market where values are moving up at 8 to 10%. And then we have another market where values are moving up at 12 to 15% per year. What typically happens is when you see a shift in the market, it's going to affect this one the least, this one a little bit more, and this one the most. And this is what you saw back in 2007, 2008. If you looked at the markets who were affected by the housing crisis the most, South Florida, Las Vegas, Phoenix,
The warm weather market.
were affected the most. Because when the market was hot, they were going up the most. What goes up must come down, probably at the same rate that it went up. Carolyn, if I'm not wrong, you're in Maryland. Hope I got that right. What's the market doing there?
I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's north of Florida.
So primarily
Carolyn,
all I was going.
yeah. What's
Primary-
happening?
Well, primarily what I was going to say is that we are noticing that more houses are on the market longer
Yep.
because some people in the habit of things should last all of 5 days, 7 days. And now it's up to the 30, 60, 90. I've sourced some while I was looking through the expires that have been on the market for what is months, and that's only because they priced themselves out of the market.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I said moment of the coming to reality, and I guess willing to negotiate with some of these buyers
Yeah.
because it's enough money, it's not enough money, and the reality is it's sad. So, and that's why this wonderful environment, you got the contingencies. What's that? The I can't remember the name of the document where the person agrees to pay over asking price, and now there's going to be a lot less of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you go back to the top of page 135, the ability to learn faster than your competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. These are the conversations. This is exactly what we're talking about, Carolyn, that goes back to the ability to learn faster. The real estate agents who, first of all, understand pricing strategy and how that changes over time. And the goal of my listing appointment is not to determine the value of your home. Script. The goal is to determine the right strategy to get your home sold in the next 30 days so that you can be in Atlanta with your family 90 days from now. Script. Now, the right strategy is going to depend on how many properties are for sale in your price range, how many buyers are looking for homes like yours in this price range every 30 days, and which market is going to be the best market for us to compete in. In other words, we're looking at 475 to 500, but we're also looking at 500 to 525. And we want to know which one of those markets, because they're completely different markets attracting completely different buyers. Which one of those markets is going to give us the best opportunity for your home to be sold in the next 30 days so that you could be in Atlanta with your family 90 days from now? Brian.
Thank you, John, for sharing. If you go back 2 pages of what you were writing, I didn't want to interrupt you then. You said 30 days and 90 days. And I heard that a bunch of times. How do you get to that point?
How do I know if it's 30 days or 90 days?
No, yeah, like I'm not understanding like that point.
When you say that point, you're gonna have to go a little bit further for me, Brian.
Okay,
what do you mean?
So go back 2 pages. Yeah, not in the top, you started by, I believe, days of inventory or how long it would take, something along those lines. And I heard this over and over again. And for some reason, I don't understand what you guys are talking about.
Okay. All right, so what we're talking about is inventory, and inventory based on location, inventory based on price. And if I'm looking at 500 to 525 as a price range, I'm also looking at 475 to 500 as a price range, because these are 2 very different markets. Yes or yes? Now, A is the number of active properties that are on the market within a 2 to 3 mile radius of the subject property. So we're going to draw an area around the subject property that's 2 to 3 miles. That's the area that the buyers are shopping in. And how many active listings are there between 500 and 525,000 in that 2 to 3 mile radius? How many active listings are there between 475 and 500? Because I'm going to look at both markets, because we're going to have a conversation around strategy and which would be the best market and the right strategy in order for us to beat the competition and get your home sold within 30 days so that you can be in Atlanta within 60 days with your family. Now, B is how many properties sold in the last 6 months in the same area in the same price range. C is B divided by 6, because we determined how many properties sold in 6 months in the same area, in the same price range. Now we want to determine how many are selling every 30 days. So we're going to take B divided by 6, and that's going to tell us how many homes are selling every 30 days. If 18 properties sold in the last 6 months, 18 divided by 6 is 3. 3 are selling every 30 days. Yes or yes? Yes. If there's 12 active listings, that's the inventory. Now we know 18 sold in the last 6 months, 3 sold every 30 days, or selling every 30 days. Now D, by the way, that's D, the supply of inventory. We have 90-day supply, we have 30 days of inventory. By the way, both are seller's market. One's just a super hot seller's market and the other one's cooling off a bit. D is A divided by C. How many active listings there are divided by the number that are selling every 30 days. Now, based on the answer to that, I know that I have 90 days of supply, or I know I have 30 days of supply, or I have 6 months. Now, when we start moving from 30 days of supply, which by the way is this, market values are going up. They're going up very quickly because there's very little inventory. There's 6 homes for sale and 6 are selling every 30 days, or 8 are selling every 30 days. Now, buyers are paying over the market value in order to win the bid. And when they do that, they're causing the value of the homes to go up at a very fast pace. When that starts to move from 30 days to 90 days, this starts to look more like this. It starts to even out a bit. In other words, the values might still be creeping up a little bit, but more than likely they're flatlining. And if I listed my property based on 30 days of inventory, when I'm really in a 90-day inventory market, I've overpriced the property. Brian, did that answer your question?
Yeah, highly appreciate it.
Please
So
say yes.
A-
If you said no, I don't know what I would do.
A is active properties, B is sold in last 6 months, C is how many sell every 30 days, and D is how much supply?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And by the way, if you don't get anything else, and by the way, I know we're over time, but we're going to keep going because I think this is really important. Permission granted. Good. If you don't get anything else, please get this. In my 14 years of selling over 100 homes every year, I'm not bragging, that's just for validity, guys. In 14 years of selling over 100 homes a year and listing between 12 and 15 homes a month, it was because I was able to have this conversation at the kitchen table. And my unique value proposition was, I am a local market expert, a strategic pricing professional, and a competitive marketing specialist. Want me to repeat that?
Yes.
John, what's your value proposition? Why should I hire you? Yagada, why should I hire you? Carolyn, why should I hire you? Because I am a local market expert. I am a strategic pricing professional and a competitive marketing specialist. It's because I was able to have those conversations at the kitchen table that I was taking 12 to 15 listings every month.
One more guess. I'm a
Repeat.
local market expert.
I am a local market expert Think in bullet points. You know, that's how I talk. I am a local market expert, a strategic pricing professional. We're going to play chess. We're not going to play checkers. I am a strategic pricing professional and a competitive marketing specialist. Clarissa.
You do a very good job in explaining this in depth in your 14-point presentation. You spent a few days going over this specific piece and the pond. Which pond am I fishing in? And that was quite effective. I had to pull that out of the toolbox. Sellers.
You know, by the way, when I'm sitting at the kitchen table, Guy Zig Ziglar calls it a thinking pad. I pull out my legal pad and I start drawing pictures. I'm having conversations at the kitchen table just like I'm having with you. I'm a teacher at the kitchen table, just like I'm a teacher with you. So one of the things that I would do is, Clarissa, if we were going to go fishing, we had 2 ponds to fish in. And this pond had 10 fish and this one had 2. Which pond would you choose? We're going to go fishing. This pond has 10 fish. This one only has 2. Which one we going in? Which one we going to fish in? A or B? This is 475 to 500. This is 500 to 525. Now it's not a conversation of which one has the most fish. It's a conversation of this is the 30-day supply of inventory. This is 90 days. Which pond do you want to go fishing in? A or B? Now you're going to compete against all the other fish.
That's a light bulb right there.
To see who's the prettiest fish in the pond. And
I am.
these fish are bigger. They have more additions. They have more accessories. They have pools. These don't. You guys get it? Where do you have the best chance to be the shining star? A or B?
B.
A. You have the best chance to be the shining star in A because you're competing against lesser competition. Where should we price your home, Clarissa? 475 to 500? I agree. You ready to get started? Do it. Now, we just took a seller who insisted on pricing their home at $525,000, which would have been this. And we help them see and self-discover, because if we say it, they may or may not believe it. If they say it, it's gospel truth. We help them see that in order to get their home sold, they needed to be below 500. In order to get their home sold, in order to catch a fish, they needed to have their bait in the water. This would be fishing with their bait out of the water. Is this making sense?
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, you've been talking about this for years. The pictures help.
The pictures help.
I need pictures.
Aha.
Is that comparing like to different communities?
It could. It's more about price than it is communities, right?
Okay,
Because
so you-
buyers buy in price ranges.
So the pond represents the price range.
Yeah. The pond represents the price range, not the community, right? Now, the seller thinks that the buyers are only looking in their neighborhood, right? No. Yagada.
Yes, hi, John. Yes, I know a seller who was the only fish in the pond,
Yes.
and he overpriced his property about 40% over the market.
Oh, ouch.
Okay. Then he bought, I found out in May, another condo, overpriced it by 60%. So from what he bought, this was just in 2-3 months. And now his first home that he posted on for sale by owner on Zillow. I'm still talking to him. He took it off after 2 weeks.
Yeah, good story. By the way, stories work too. So drawing pictures work, telling stories work. So remember that story when you're sitting at somebody else's kitchen table who's going to do the same thing this seller did, and say, you know, I had an experience with someone else who thought the same way you did. Feel, felt, found. You guys familiar with that strategy? It's been used in sales for many, many years. So I used to feel the same way you did, and feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, and this is what I found out. I understand how you feel. I used to feel, I felt the same way, and this is what I found. Feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, and this is what I found. Now, you follow that up with a story. Carolyn, your hand is up. I don't know if it's still up from a bit ago or if you put it back up.
No, primarily when I used to teach dance at the church for praise dance, the one thing that we learned was that everybody learns differently. So visually, hands-on, or verbally. And it's kind of like going through the disc.
Yeah.
So when she said she gets it with the pictures, that's just the thing you're going to learn, that sometimes you have to combine it all so that you don't miss something. So if if you can relate to pictures, then you want to do the numbers, the pictures, as well as speak it. And then you got every basis covered in your presentation, for lack of a better word.
Love that. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you. Hey, Millie, by the way, thank you for adding in the chat. I am a local market expert, a strategic pricing professional, and a competitive marketing specialist. That's Diane says that's my girl. Yes.
I have something, John.
Diane, talk to me.
As I'm sitting here, my brain is doing things. So
Good thing.
yeah, it's good things. The conversations are going to change now in our script and role play, because we've been like, even in the expired, we've been saying, if I had a full price offer, would you want me to bring you that offer? Right? So I feel like those conversations have to shift a little bit too, because the truth is, in a shifting market, yeah, we can say that, but perhaps we need, the words matter how we're gonna say that. And I'm thinking in my mind, well, if somebody like the expireds that are 6 months old or 8 months old or whatever, and they say to you, well, I want $500,000 for my house or $550,000 for my house, then that conversation now turns to questions. Well, let me ask you a question. When you sell your house or when you put it on the market, why were you moving? Where are you moving to? So that's just my little aha in my brain.
Diana, I know you now for 2 years, close to, yeah. And I understand how you process things, and I can see the wheels turning. I get it. Keep working on that, because you're going in the right direction. Okay. Now, the initial call, the purpose of call is to get an appointment, period, the end. So yeah, you can change the script to something as simple as, if I had an offer on your home, would you want me to bring you the offer? Right? I could see that you were selling your home for $500,000. Just out of curiosity, what would you have done if you got an offer for 480? Well, I did get an offer for 480 and I rejected it. Okay, I get it. And knowing what you know now, would you still reject that same offer?
Right. So those are the
kinds of questions you want to ask. 100%. All right, we are way over time, but that's a good thing. That means that you guys got value. As always, I hope you got your money's worth. Don't forget it was free. And time to get to work. So what's work? Work is 20 conversations, not 19, not 18, not 17 conversations. Because when you have 17 conversations, Wendy, you didn't have the 18th conversation, which could have been $1 million listing that you didn't get because you didn't have the conversation. Make care calls, not sale calls. Always lead with gratitude, bring value to every conversation. Focus on getting an appointment, adding somebody to your database, getting a referral, and building a relationship. Find somebody today that is thinking of selling their home, whether it's 30 days from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, doesn't matter, because a year from now, you're taking seller listings. Meet with somebody today that is thinking of selling their home. And then follow up forever, because you reject rejection, and no is not a word that lives in your vocabulary. No simply means not yet. Remember that people will never change their mind, but they will make a new decision based on new information. And when you follow up forever, you're creating emotional proximity, which simply means that they're going to hire the person who is closest to them. Alan, I'm coming to you. So, Alan, when you follow up forever and you create emotional proximity, and that seller makes a new decision, that new decision is going to be to hire me. Hire me. Okay. All right, everybody, make it a great day. We're going to jump right into just a few minutes of script and role play here.